Hi Rivercrest families. We're going to do a short review of what your students will need to know for the quiz tomorrow. We're working on expressions being converted into division or fractions. On this side, it wants us to fill in the blank. Blank divided by 6 is equal to 14 over 6. Well, we've already established in class that if we're reading this, we would say 14 divided by 6. So what's missing on this side is the 14. So if we read from left to right like we would do a book, we would say 14 divided by 6. And if we read like we would read a page from top to bottom, we would say 14 divided by 6. So these two are equal. Okay, on the next one, it gives us 21 divided by blank is equal to 4 1/5. Okay, now to find out what should go in the blank, anytime we have one that is shown as a mixed number, meaning it has a whole number part and a fraction part, then we would first want to turn that into an improper fraction, which means it's bigger on the top in the numerator than it is on the bottom in the denominator. And we would do that by multiplying diagonal. 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 1 would give us 21/5, which we know if we read it from top to bottom would mean 21 divided by 5. So on this side, it's the 5 that is missing. 21 divided by 5 is equal to 21 divided by 5. Okay, on the next one, again, it gives us one that shows it as a mixed number. So the first thing we want to do is change that to an improper fraction. So we would have 5 times 6 is 30, plus the 4 would give us 34/5, which we know if we read it from top to bottom would mean 34 divided by 5. So on this side in the expression, it's the 34 that's missing. So now on both sides we have 34 divided by 5 is equal to 34 divided by 5, written as a fraction and as an expression. Now, anytime they're asked to show a fraction on a number line, it's easier to determine where it is on the number line if we take this and we turn it from an improper fraction to a mixed number. And we would do that by simply just taking it and doing standard division. We would have 6 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 one time. So 1 times 4 is 4. We subtract and we have a remainder of 2. So if we write that as a mixed number, we would have 1 whole 1, and then we had a remainder of 2 fourths. Now, we could also simplify this. To simplify a fraction, you need to be able to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So if I divide each of these by 2, I still have my whole 1, but then I have 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So in a simplified mixed number, we have 1 1/2. 1 1/2 is much more easily seen on the number line than 6/4. We have 1 and then 1/2. So showing up 6 6/4 on a number line is much easier to see when we have it in the mixed number form. Okay, for this one, three students equally share 18 sheets of construction paper for an art project. How many sheets of paper does each student get? When it gives it to you in a worded situation, the things you need to remember is that you know you're going to be doing it in a fraction, and your top number is always going to be represented by how much do you have all together. So how much all together? And it tells us in our situation that all together they have 18 sheets of paper. Your bottom number will always be how many times is it being shared? How many being shared? Okay, and it tells us in our word problem that it's being shared by 3 students. So if I want to know how many sheets each student would get, I would read it as a division problem. 18 divided by 3. 3 goes into 18 6 times with nothing remaining. So each student would get 6 sheets of paper. Okay, on the next one, 3 students equally share 1 tube of glue for an art project. How much glue does each student get? Again, we know that it's going to be a fraction. The top number is always going to be how much you have all together. And it says that all together, they only have 1 tube of glue. Your bottom number will always be how many times is it being shared? And it tells us that it's being shared by 3 students. So each student would get 1/3 of the tube of glue. Okay, on this one, it's asking us to explain why 4/3, which we know we can read as 4 divided by 3, is equal to 4 times 1/3. If we take a look at this and we write it, we know that on this side we have 4/3. Anytime we're multiplying a whole number times a fraction, it's easier to look at the whole number if you write it as a fraction also. Any whole number can be written as a fraction by putting that whole number over 1, because 4 divided by 1 is 4, so that would give us the whole number 4. So now we have 2 fractions that we can multiply times each other. And we'd simply do that by multiplying straight across. We're going to multiply the numerators. 4 times 1 is 4. And then we multiply straight across with our denominators. 1 times 3 is 3. That makes it much more easy to see that when you put them in a fraction form with your whole number over 1, you just multiply straight across, and it does then show us how those two are equal. Okay, on this one, each workbook is 3/8 inch thick. How many inches thick is a stack of 5 workbooks? So I have to think. I have 3/8 5 times because I have 5 workbooks. And we just said that it's easier to multiply a whole number and a fraction if we look at that whole number as a fraction also. So we would have 3/8 times, turning our whole number into a fraction, we just place that number over a 1, and then we multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator. 3 times 5 is 15. 8 times 1 is 8. And then we can turn that into a mixed number by simply dividing, just like we would say it, 15 divided by 8. 8 goes into 15 one time with a remainder of 7. So we would have 1 whole one and then 7 remaining out of 8. So 5 workbooks that were 3/8 inch apiece would be 1 7/8 inches thick. Okay, on this one, 4 hikers equally share 3 liters of water. How many liters does each hiker drink? We know we're going to be looking at it as a fraction, and we've already talked about the top number will always be represented by how much altogether. So altogether they have 3 liters of water, and then the bottom number is always going to be how many times is it being shared. It's having to be shared by 4 hikers. So each hiker would get 3/4 of a liter. Okay, on the next one. 4 hikers equally share 5 liters of water. We know it's going to be a fraction. The top number, again, is how much altogether. Altogether, they have 5 liters. Bottom number will always be how many times it's being shared. It's being shared by 4 hikers. We would turn this into a mixed number by dividing, just like we would say it, 5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 one time, with 1 remaining. So we would have 1 full liter, and then our remaining 1/4. So each hiker would get 1 1/4 liters. Okay, on this one, Jada cuts 11 inches, an 11-inch strip of paper into 5 equal pieces. How many inches is each piece? So if we have an 11-inch strip, that's how much we have all together, and it's being shared, or it's being split into 5 equal pieces. So we would have 11 divided by 5. 5 goes into 11 2 times, with 1 remaining. So we would have 2 whole with 1/5 remaining. So each piece would be 2 1/5 inches. Alright, Jada cuts a strip of paper into 5 equal pieces. Each piece is 7/5 inches long. How long was the strip of paper? Okay, she has 7/5 5 times. So we know that it's easier to multiply fractions with a whole number when we look at that whole number as a fraction also by placing it over 1 and then multiplying straight across. 7 times 5 is 35. 5 times 1 is 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. So the strip of paper altogether was 7 inches long. This one, there are 36 fish in 4 aquariums. There are the same number of fish in each aquarium. How many fish are in each aquarium? We know from previous ones that it's going to be as a fraction. We know that the top number will always be represented by how many we have all together. And all together we have 36 fish. Our bottom number is always how many times it's having to be shared or split. It tells us that we're trying to split these into 4 aquariums. So we would read top to bottom. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So each aquarium would get 9 fish. Okay, and our last one. There are 24 dogs at a shelter. There are 4 times as many dogs at the shelter as cats at the shelter. How many cats are there at the shelter? Okay, we know that we have 24 dogs altogether, and we know that there's 4 times as many cats. So when we first started doing this today, I had several students who did 24 times 4, and they came out with 96. And I asked them, I said, what we always need to do is think, is my answer reasonable? It was asking me how many cats there are. And if I came out with 96 cats, and there's supposedly 4 times as many dogs as cats, and I only have 24 dogs, then I know that my answer of 96 is not reasonable. So I've used the wrong math operation. Instead of multiplying, we would divide our dogs, and then we would see that we get 24 divided by 4 is 6. So we're saying that there are 6 cats in the shelter, which is reasonable because then 6 times it says we have 4 times more dogs, so 6 times 4 would give us the 24 dogs that it says we have. takeaway we need to get is if they give us something written as an expression, we read left to right, and we also read top to bottom. So 24 divided by 5 would be the same as 24 divided by 5. The other takeaway, we need to make sure that we know how to turn this improper fraction, which has a bigger numerator than it does a denominator. We would just write it out as long division, 24 divided by 5. 5 goes into 24 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and we subtract. So we would have a remainder of 4. So as a mixed number, we would have 4 whole ones with 4 remaining, and we were dealing in fifths. So 24 over 5 is the same as 4 4/5. The other takeaway that we need to know is that to convert a mixed number into a improper fraction, we multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 4 would give us 24, and we're still dealing in fifths. So that's our main takeaway, is we just need to be able to see the relationship between an expression, a fraction. A fraction is nothing but division read from top to bottom. We can turn it into a mixed number and then back into an improper fraction. So good luck on tomorrow's quiz, guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.